Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Sprechen Disc Golf, the most reliable Pro Tour focused podcast. My name is Zach Coleman. I will be your host. As always, we have a great episode on hand for you guys. We are going to be recapping the first major of the year, the Champions Cup, followed by a preview for the Jonesboro Open coming up this weekend. Before we get into it, if you haven't already, go check out our Instagram and our Twitter, Sprechen Disc Golf, or our home platform, sprechensports.com. More about that at the end of the episode. So, getting right in, we are going to start off with Champions Cup, and I was so happy to be back. W.R. Jackson for the major, could not wait, and it delivered an interesting event. I'll just go through the winners here. We had Isaac Robinson and Kristin Tattar taking it down, both going wire to wire from round one, with the leads never really faltering. Kind of, if you want to look at it like this, kind of a boring major because they just looked so good and so unbeatable the entire event. But I think there is some value to that, and we will talk about that in a little bit. Rounding out the podium, we had Eagle McMahon and Nicholas Antala, and on the FPO side, we had Owen Scoggins, and then Kat Murch, Haley King, and Katrina Allen tying for third place. So let's just talk about what was going right. So for Isaac, it was he was putting himself in the circle and he was making putts. I mean, he was just always in the circle. When he got in trouble, he scrambled. He was first in scramble rate. He didn't really look ever flustered this event. It was just kind of always cruising right along. Wasn't crazy, but it actually was crazy because he ended up obliterating what people thought would be the winning score of like 32, 33 down. Ended up with a 40 down, averaging 10 down per round after a course change made the course more difficult. They took away the previously eagleable 18. Well, they didn't take it away. They changed the basket placement, made it a very difficult par 4. That was showing its teeth a little bit this weekend. So they made it more difficult, and Isaac Robinson said, I don't care. I'm just going to continue to go out and shred this course. He shot an 11 down, a 12 down, and then a 6 down to complete his 40 under par. And it was awesome to see. I mean, Isaac had a tough start to the season, some really poor finishes at Vegas and Waco, and he came out firing this weekend. He ended up on feature card round 1. This is his home state of Georgia. And he really didn't look back from there. I think when you look at Isaac Robinson, he clearly enjoys playing from the lead. He's gone wire to wire at both his victories. And that is a scary thing to get a taste of if you're the rest of the field, because once he kind of gets into that lead, it seems like he puts kind of a vice grip on it. So shout out to Isaac Robinson. I mean, just what an event. We've been talking a lot about Gannon Buhr as, new young talent and everything like that. And I think people forget how young Isaac Robinson is. I mean, he's not Gannon Buhr young, but he's finally able to focus on disc golf. He's done with school, everything like that. He's able to really just put his mind onto disc golf and do this full time. And I think he has more wins in his future this year, especially. Kristin Tattar was, she was, she I don't even know what to say about her play anymore. It's just insane. She won by 14 strokes at a major. She was shot the hot round or tied for it every single round. It was electric. This is an event last year that she lost. She didn't win, and she comes back and she shoots just insane golf to win by 14. I mean, what a ridiculous event. Putted 96%, I think it was, from circle 1. Just absurd stats. If you go and look at her UDisc profile for this event, it's just first, first in scramble, first in circle 1 putting, first in circle 2 in regulation, first in park percentage, like ridiculous stats. And she shot bogey free the first 3 rounds, took 1 bogey on the final round, but it didn't matter. There was no one that was close to catching her. What an event from Kristin. And I was kind of thinking about it. If you're Kristin, your next big goal is to get European Open, right? Your kind of home event. You want to get European Open. I know she lives in Estonia, not Finland, but it's kind of for, you got to go win over in Europe. After that, what is Kristin Tattar chasing? Because she is, she started the prime of her career later than Paige. She's not going to have the chance to get as many majors or at least as many worlds as Paige did. I don't think. So, if you're looking at Kristin, what is the next big landmark for her? And I think it is the 1,000 rated club. I think she is going to try to beat Paige Pierce to be 1,000 rated, and I think she has a really good chance at it. And what will be impressive about it is, a year, 2 years ago, ratings were decently inflated. They weren't exactly accurate to what they should have been. We've seen that dip down a little bit. And so if she gets it, it will be all the more impressive. And I think that's kind of what she has to push for at this point. I think that, if you're Kristin, you're looking at what's my legacy going to be? What are the record books going to show? And I don't think she's going to have a chance to be up there for major wins or anything like that. I think she can set some single season records, absolutely. But I think the 1,000 rated mark is what her legacy could be on the FPO tour. And I just wish we would have seen this Kristin for longer, this full-time kind of touring dominant Kristin, but I'm glad we got to see it now. Better late than never, because she is just so impressive to watch. I mean, everything was on this weekend. There wasn't something she struggled with at all. And it's hard to look at this event and pick another FPO winner at all this year. I mean, really, there were people playing very well and they didn't come close to touching her. So, but yeah, I think that 1,000 rated, I think that's kind of the pinnacle, or at least that's her next kind of journey in the FPO record books. Going through the rest of the podium, Eagle McMahon made a late charge. He wasn't really in contention to win final round a little bit, but he went a little bit quiet during the middle stretch, but he did a great job this weekend just avoiding bogeys, taking a solid amount of birdies, and we saw him use the forehand a lot more than we've seen recently, and I think that was awesome. I mean, I love, when Eagles throwing forehands, the tour is winning, because we could see some really cool shots. So it was good to see him lean on the forehand a little bit more. I don't think this is what we're going to see Eagle peak at this season. I think this is just a glimpse, and it's a glimpse I'm happy to see, because he looked really good. And he made that big 90-foot putt. He made some really nice shots, and overall, I think he was kind of quiet right until he snuck into second place. Like, we were looking at Isaac and Nicholas and Silas and these guys and Matty O, and then Eagle's like, oh, I'm in second place. Look at that. So just goes to show, never count Eagle out, because he will always sneak up there. So welcome back to the podium, Eagle. Tied for second with him was Mr. Nicholas Antala, the man who loves the major. I mean, he's coming second at 2 majors in a row. Absolutely electric in these big moments. He just took a few too many bogeys this weekend. He kind of, it wasn't an absurd amount, but it definitely hurt him to the point where he couldn't. Oh, sorry, excuse me. It definitely hurt him to the point where he wasn't able to really, I say couldn't push for the win, which he could have, but he would have had to shoot something ridiculous. He had 5 bogeys through the first 3 rounds, and when you're looking at guys like Isaac, who only had 1, I believe it was, you're just gonna, when you're losing those strokes consistently like that, those 2-stroke swings potentially, it just really, really starts to hurt. And so, but overall, I mean, you cannot be upset if you're Nicholas at this event. I mean, 2 majors in a row, second place, and I don't think this is bold to say this, but I do think he is going to be the next European player to get a win on the Pro Tour or in Elite Series. At that, including majors, he just looks so good and controlled. He has a really nice floaty long putt that he's, it's deceivingly good. I think the sky's the limit. He's also extremely young. I believe he's 20 or 21. I'm pretty sure he's my age, and he has so much upside. So now that he's in the U.S., he's touring full time. I think we can confidently say that he will at some point get a Pro Tour of some kind, because his game looks too good not to. Not on the podium, but I do want to give a special shout out to Silas Schultz. He showed up big this weekend. We have not really seen him push for the win. I believe his best finish was 14th place previously. And And this weekend, you watched him play, and you're like, why are we not seeing this guy every single weekend? And I understand that there can kind of be that effect. Like, all these guys on tour have the ability to shoot really good golf. And then when we see it, we're like, oh my gosh, why are they not there every week? But we hadn't seen that yet from Silas. And it's good to know that he kind of has that in him. He was at one point only within 2 strokes of Isaac Robinson. He was a few holes ahead. He chained out for an ace on, I believe it was hole 11. You know, you're watching this guy and you're like, oh my gosh, he might win this thing from, mega far back. Cooled off a little bit, went par, bogey, but he was at one point 11 down through 12, just missing the very, very difficult hole 5. And I love this because he is such a fun game to watch. I mean, he throws so far. He can putt from a long ways away. He kind of has it all. And he clearly has no big, like, I'm sure he has flaws in his game, but there's nothing. It's like, oh, it's too bad I can't throw a backhander. It's too bad I don't have a forehander. I can't really putt. He clearly has, like, all the tools. It's just a matter of putting them together. And I think putting them together is much easier than trying to acquire them during your career. So I think Silas, will we see him again in this kind of spot? Maybe not, but I hope we do, because he is a really entertaining game. And I think maybe now that he's proved it to himself, we might see it a little bit more. Alrighty, heading over to FPO, where the podium, they had to add 2 extra slots because of ties. So we talked about Kristin. Looking at Own, she just did her thing. She was 10th in birdie percentage, but she just never really got into crazy trouble. Just consistent Own golf, made up some strokes putting. Final round, she was 100% from C1X. So shout out to Own. Great event from her. I don't think this is shocking. She wasn't really ever in contention for the win, but she was never gonna, like, miss the cut or drop below the top 10, Yeah, sorry. So, Own doing Own things. I don't think anyone's really shocked by that. She was just moving right along and picking up strokes on people. Third place, we had Kat Murch, Katrina Allen, Haley King. I'll just start with Kat. Kat shot a couple really hot rounds, but also struggled there a little bit in the middle. So she started out really, really hot at 7 down, really, really good, and then went -2 +1, which really just kind of killed her event. A -3 final round tied for the hot round, but it was not even close to enough to push her close to Kristin. Just too many bogeys. She actually led in birdie percentage. She beat Kristin in birdie percentage. She just could not keep it together enough to avoid. She had a couple double bogeys here and there, and then just quite a few singles. So she's clearly super talented, just maybe needs to get a little bit more dialed, kind of zoned in. But good event from her. Good, nice play in the woods, kind of back there toward her kind of home style there. Katrina Allen, no shocks here. She's one of the best in the world, and when you're one of the best in the world and you're having an off week, you're still kind of up there. This wasn't her best weekend ever. She overall putted very well, but one round had some pretty big struggles from the putting green, and just too many bogeys. Kind of what I'm going to say about everyone that's not Kristin Tattar. But podiumed, nice job from Katrina. Last on the podium was Haley King, and I know Haley King had a chance to do much better at this event. She missed quite a few opportunities, I think. Struggled on the putting green final round. But I think if you're Haley King, you have to look at this event and be happy, because your previous kind of golf style has been hot round, kind of hot and cold. And this was a really solid, consistent event from Haley, and I think she can kind of be proud of that, because I think when Haley King is playing consistent golf, she can be that kind of that talent that we all think she can. And so I think if we're looking toward Haley King in the future, we might see her try this style more. I don't know if she changed up how she attacked the course or anything like that, but if she did, I think we should continue to see the style, because she clearly has that talent and the arm talent and everything. We just need to see her hone it in a little bit and avoid the big mistake, which she did. So shout out to Haley King for another major podium. Add that to her young career. Alrighty, let's talk about some storylines from the event. The top struggled a little bit as compared to last year. Last year we saw that final round lead card was Ricky, Chris, Calvin, as well as Paul shooting the 16 down. The cream kind of rose to the top last event. That did not happen this year. Paul McBeth in 20th, Calvin Heimberg 16th, Simon Lizotte 13th, and then Paige Pierce missing the cut. That's a little bit of a different storyline, but the fact remains true is that the top kind of struggled this weekend. It was a jumbled leaderboard for sure. And if we look at the top 10 on MPO especially, you have Isaac Robinson and Eagle, pretty big names. But then you have Nicholas Antela, Silas Schultz, Mason Ford, Aiden Scott, Chris Clemens, Vino Makala, all in that top 10, as well as some of the top 10 guys like Gannon Burr, Matty O. But it was a little bit of a jumbled leaderboard. And, I don't know what changed from this year to last year, but some of the guys that we saw succeed last year definitely struggled. For Paul, so for this list, I think this is most concerning for Paul. Calvin and Simon each already have notched a win this year. They've shown that they're having a solid year, just one rough event. For Paul, I think you're concerned because at this point you haven't podiumed yet. We didn't really see him at all this weekend, and other than round one, and overall just a lackluster game. If we go to his stats here on UDisc, he ended up putting really solidly at 96%. He was just never in the circle. Only 31% C1X in regulation. That is good for 50th in the field. Just really, really struggled. Couldn't hit the fairway very much. Never parked. Not getting in the circle. Just a really sloppy, seemingly off the tee. Shot a 3 down. Followed up with a 10 down. You think, oh shoot, Paul's hunting. But then with a 7 and a 3 down to finish. Not good enough, especially when Isaac is averaging 10 down a round. So where does this kind of leave Paul for the season? He is heading to Europe here soon. And I think if you're Paul and you head to Europe before you've really shown yourself on the tour this year, I think that puts you in a bad spot because you're looking at the likes of guys who are full sprint right now. Gannon, Calvin, Simon's had some good events recently. You're looking at guys like that, and then you're expecting the names like Paul, Chris to be up there, and they're just not. Eagle finally gets his first podium, and after Vegas, you're like, okay. After Waco, you're okay. Austin, you're a little bit more hesitant. But at what point is Paul going to start running? And I know people saying, oh, we can still come out and win any week. I don't think that's what the Pro Tour is about anymore, though. I think consistency is just as impressive because there's such a deep field. So I think if you're Paul, you need to be concerned. Maybe that Europe trip will help kind of clear his mind, be a good thing for him. But if you go over to Europe and you're not winning those events either, I think you're not in a good space mentally there. So that's kind of what I got to say about Paul. Paige, we're going to give Paige a pass here because she does have an injury with her rotator cuff, I believe it is. So we're going to chalk it up to that. That being said, I do hope we see Paige Pierce take a break. I do not want to see her try and push her injury like Simon did. We saw Simon not himself for a while, and that's really tough to see. And I know it can be tough to sit out, especially when you're Paige, you're chasing that fifth world title. You're chasing records and everything like that. But you might be costing yourself future opportunities to get that. And so we saw Simon eventually decide to sit out. And I think Paige needs to eventually make that same decision. She had just the way she talked about it, how she's going to play through it and tough it out. I don't think that is what's best. And I'm not Paige's doctor and I'm not Paige, but I would just hate to see Paige miss an even more extended amount of time because she's trying to push through this injury. But overall, I'll leave it up to the discretion of her doctors and herself because I'm not, that's not me. I'm not a medical professional. So, just my 2 cents. I would hate to see Paige miss even more time. This event really favored the backhand turnover. That is kind of what I noticed. We saw the likes of, Isaac, Nicholas, James Conrad, kind of show up at this event. And that is because the backhand turnover played really well. Matty O's another one. Mason Ford. These guys all throw the backhand turnover extremely well. And I think this kind of pushing, glidey backhand turnover shot is what this course really rewards. And I'm glad that kind of showed this weekend because it is more of a unique style than some of the other courses. That shot kind of reigned supreme. So that was fun to watch. I definitely enjoyed seeing that unique style that W.R. Jackson provides. And I think, there are other shots, of course, on the course itself, but I think that's kind of where they made up some strokes, is that nice finesse backhand turnover. Isaac said he was throwing the FX4, I believe it was. Nicholas was throwing a PD. Those guys are just super talented at hitting those shots on the perfect angle and just getting so much drift out of them. So fun to see, interesting flights. Too bad we didn't actually get to see them that much, because we got to discuss it. The coverage this weekend. I am usually a big supporter of DGN. I give them the benefit of the doubt 9 times out of the 10, just because I know what they're doing is really difficult, and I know they're doing it with limited resources and everything. But this weekend was absolutely unacceptable on the Pro Tours, or the PDGA and the Pro Tours side, I guess, because, they did their best out there with the equipment they had, and I believe that. But if that is the coverage that people are going to pay for, you have to go to a different course. You cannot put out that product and be okay with people paying for that, because it's a major, right? People want to see this. These are the events that people should be watching. And the turnout was actually pretty disappointing, and it doesn't shock me because people probably saw it on YouTube on day one and thought, I'm not paying for that, which fair enough. I wouldn't. I did, but if I were just like jumping in and getting, kind of newly acquainted with live disc golf, I would not watch that event. I understand that WR is a historic course. It's at the IDGC, International Disc Golf Center. And I understand that, it's really cool. It's a top course in the world, great designer. But you can, coverage is going to start to play a bigger factor, and that already has. And eventually coverage is going to reign supreme, and it is going to be what decides where we play. Coverage that combined with spectators. And that was just unacceptable this weekend, At one point, it completely cut out, and then they, showed some B-roll for a while, and then came back to the booth, and they were talking about how, we're going to kind of recap it, and then they froze. So that was not a great look. Something had to change this weekend. It was just it made it much less enjoyable to watch. So it might be time to move on from WR or figure out some resources that could help you film there. Let's review the predictions from the weekend. I had Calvin Heimberg, Simon Lizotte, Chris Dickerson, and they went 16th, 13th, and 11th. Not my best. My dark horse, Eric Oakley, got 36th. He did cash, and I think he had a solid event, so okay there. FPO was much better. I had Kristin, Tattar in first, Owen Scoggins in second, and Missy Gannon in third. And they went first, second, 17th, respectively. And then my dark horse missed the cut, Maria Oliva. She's having a little bit of a struggle, had some events this year, but that's okay. We'll take the first, second, correct. My bold takes for this event were actually really solid. So I said we'll see a first-time major winner, which was correct. Isaac Robinson, first-time major winner. I said Macbeth will stay cold. I did say he'll end up in 11th. That was a little bit too bold. Ended up in 20th, so maybe not actually as bold, but he did stay cold. He did end up well down the leaderboard for Paul standards. Then my last pick was Corey Ellis gets a top 5, and he did not come close, so we don't need to talk about that one. We'll just talk about the ones where I was right. But it was good to see a first-time major winner. I think that's always fun. It is fun to see guys get their second, third, whatever. But seeing that first-time winner, I think there's a different level of excitement about it, and there's a different level of kind of the play. Are the nerves there? How are they going to deal with it? So that was fun to watch for sure. Alrighty, that wraps up Champions Cup recap. But don't go anywhere because we now have the Jonesboro Open preview show. And let me just say Jonesboro might be my favorite event of the year. I don't know why. I just love this course. This side of heaven. First of all, 10 out of 10 name. I mean, if you're going off naming, it is the top event. But I just love this course. We're down in Arkansas. Beautiful rolling hills. The use of combination of open and but using trees as obstacles, but super spectator friendly is amazing. You get to see full power shots. So kind of in my course notes, it's like full power landing zones, right? So you get to throw full power. You're pulling out the distance driver, but you're kind of throwing maybe a pushing hyzer through the gap or something like that. And I think we really get to see people kind of lean on their distance a little bit. There are some opportunities to really show it off. Hole 18 comes to mind. That is a fun one where you can either lay up with a mid-range or a fairway, or you can go big. Like Calvin did last year on 18, hole 1 is 470 feet, slightly uphill. Like that's a big shot for most players, and you just get to see people, rip right as the course starts. And then I think they use OB so well there. It's like, it's not too much, but it's just beautifully shaped. And it's like, if I were to show someone a video of what disc golf is, I like to show them Jonesboro, because it's just a beautiful look for disc golf. Manicured fairways, staked OB, water, trees, baskets on a hillside. Like, it's just, it's disc golf, and it's beautiful. You got some really fast greens in there that make it difficult. You got some weird shot. Like, it's just a great course. The final stretch gives you awesome scoring separation opportunities. 16 is eagleable. 17 is a really tough par 4 with an awkward landing zone. Easy bogey if you go OB. And then 18 is that ridiculous par 4. We're seeing some guys go early out of bounds. We're seeing some guys pump it up to the 250 marker, as Calvin did last year. Just really great scoring separation. I love this event. If we're looking at the field here, we see that we are missing Ricky Wysocki. He did drop out from Champions Cup a few days before, citing his Lyme disease flare-up. It looks like he's going to be taking some extended time away from the Pro Tour to go focus on healing up. He is headed down to Florida to do some rehab for that, so we wish the best of luck to Ricky as he heals his injury. And again, no Valerie Mandujano. What was originally supposed to be like a few week break has turned into the entire season. We have not seen her yet, at least at a full event, and it's a bummer because she provides a lot to the FPO field and a little bit more competition to Kristin. So her and Ricky are definitely a really big loss to the field. Drew Gibson is back on the Pro Tour. There was a podcast speculating that he was suspended. He's not suspended. He's back on the Pro Tour, just the same break he did last year. This is a course that definitely suits his game a little bit more than Champions Cup. So we did see him at Champions Cup, but that is not a Pro Tour event. We do have our lead cards already out. On MPO, we have Calvin Heimberg, Vino Makala, Eagle McMahon, and Kevin Jones. Kevin Jones is his home event. He is from Arkansas, so we will look to see him show out. And then on FPO, we have Carolina Henderson, Kristin Tattar, Katrina Allen, and Kat Murch. So 3 of the podium finishers from last weekend on the FPO side, so you'll have to see that. So kind of looking at this event from last year, and you could have said this about Champions Cup as well, is that you could have said this about Champions Cup last year and going into this series, but the cream rises to the top. Last year, I'm just going to go down the order. It went Calvin, Macbeth, Jones, Chris Dickerson, Burr, Matteo, Simon, and then Ricky finished 10th. So in that top 10, there were like 8 of the top 10 players in the world. Like, it was a ridiculous leaderboard, just power packed right there. So that's what I like about this event, is it shows off the best talent in the world. So kind of recapping last year, we had Calvin, Kevin Jones, and Paul Macbeth going into the final round, all kind of competing for the win. Alden Harris was in there for a bit. At one point, we got up to, I believe it was hole 6, and the entire card was tied for the lead. Pretty nuts. Gannon was making a push as well from a different card. We ended up with a Kevin Jones lead, pretty sizable. I believe it was 3 strokes over Calvin, maybe 4 over Paul, going into the last 3 holes. Paul went eagle, birdie, birdie. Calvin went eagle, par, birdie. We end up in a playoff. It was... it wasn't a 3 strokes over Paul, 2 over Calvin, and they overtook him. That's what it was. And then we ended up in a playoff between Calvin and Paul. on the first hole. Calvin absolutely parks it. Paul goes into the woods, tries to give a run at it, doesn't make it, and Calvin is your 2-time MPO champ at Jonesboro. Really fun event to watch last year. That the kind of the ending stretch of this course provides a lot of great scoring separation, and so I think that was completely showed off last year, which was awesome to see. What are some of the key stats for the weekend? I'm so glad you asked because I actually have them right here. Last year, the biggest indicator of success was fairway hits. Fairway hits are important here. It is an extremely fair course, meaning if you are in the fairway, you will likely have a chance for birdie. There isn't a lot of like, oh, I got unlucky, I landed in the fairway, but I'm, in this awkward spot. If you're in the fairway, you'll have a chance. If you're off the fairway, you probably won't. There is some thick brush here. It's not in the woods, but there's wood patches kind of around it, and if you get into that, you are either OB or you are pitching out. So there's not a huge opportunity to necessarily scramble, but if you are in the fairway, you have a clean drive, you will have a chance to get up and down for birdie or have a putt for birdie likely. Circle tune regulation is important. I mean, being in the circle is important at every event. There again, the big indicator is fairway hit. That was the biggest one by far. Circle tune regulation is very helpful as well. You will have open putts if you are in circle 2. Most likely, there are a couple holes where that might change, but generally, if you're in circle 2, you'll have a pretty open look. The MPO field needs to beat Calvin this weekend. Calvin's a 2-time winner of this event. He plays really well. This course fits his style, and if you're beating Calvin, you are probably toward the top or in first place. And then the other thing is consistent rounds. Don't come out here and try to shoot, 12-13 first round, whatever. Calvin won last year by going 8 down, 9 down, 9 down, and that was enough. This is not a crazy, scorching hot, shred the course kind of event. This is a consistent golf, avoid the big number, take your birdies, and move on. And I love how it kind of plays that way, but it doesn't feel that way when you're on, you're watching coverage. You're like, oh, there's going to be a birdie fest, kind of open course, whatever. No, this is not like that. The wind here plays a huge factor. That's the other thing is I think this is the course best designed for wind. We saw at Jones Supreme that it was mega windy that first round at DDO, or every round, and we saw players really struggling. And almost too much, right? Like players shooting well over par. This one, it takes the course from like a scoreable course to kind of a medium course, and I think it plays to the wind really, really well. Let's get into some predictions. So number 1, I have Kevin Jones taking it down finally in his home state. He's come close a couple times, but this year he is going to take it down. I'm calling it here. Number 2, Eagle McMahon. He'll go back-to-back podiums. I'm seeing him now that he's leaning on the forehand a little bit more. I think we can start to see him push up the leaderboards a little bit. And then in third place, Gandon Burr. He made a charge last year from the Chase card, I believe it was. Looked really good at this course, and I think that will continue. My dark horse is a man who's had a little bit of a quiet year, and that is Aaron Gossage. I think this course favors people or allows you to throw that kind of one angle shot a lot of the times that we saw Aaron Gossage tear it up at Worlds with. And I think if you can hit that hyzer really well and hard and get that kind of pushing hyzer, I think you can score well. It's not on every hole. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying every hole you can throw that shot, but I think you can score well enough by throwing that, and I think Aaron Gossage is a good pick to throw that shot. He also has the monster forehand, which is great for an event like this. On the FPO side, locked in at her spot, as always, number 1, Kristin Tattar. There is no reason to ever pick against her right now. Number 2, Katrina Allen. I think she also goes back-to-back podiums. This is a thrower's course, and I think is going to play that way. And Katrina Allen is a great thrower of the disc. Continuing in that kind of vein, I have Evelina Salonen taking home third place, her first podium of the year, hopefully. On tour, that is, on the Pro Tour. I hope to see her putt well. She is the best thrower of the disc in the field, I believe, by far. And this course favors that. So if we're going to see it, now is the time. So, if not now, then when? When are we going to see her on the podium? My dark horse, I'm going Kona Montgomery. She has had some solid finishes this year. She's moving up a little bit. I'm excited to see her attack this course. No huge reason behind that. I see her on an upward trend, and I want her to do well. Getting into some bold predictions. I am going to guess that the course plays like a stroke softer this year, and the winner averages 10 down per round. I am also going to guess that Pierce rebounds from Champions Cup and pushes for a podium, and that Mr. Chris Dickerson will miss the top 20. So there are the bold predictions. You hopefully have all the information you need to go and watch Jonesboro live on DGN and YouTube for free tomorrow. And then after that, it is behind the paywall, or you can watch Jonas post-produced, of course. I've been enjoying watching the live coverage this year. There's something exciting about live disc golf. There's something kind of there. And when you know that they're lining up the shot in real time, it's a little bit more exciting. So I would heavily recommend checking out DGN and trying it if you have not. Alrighty, well, that ends it for our show. Again, go check out our home platform, spreckensports.com. It allows you to chat with other fans in real time about the same events you are watching. You just click on the event, join the conversation, and talk with other fans in real time. I will be in there a little bit this weekend, probably not as much as usual, but I will get the event up for Jonesboro right now, and you can go and join probably when you're seeing this. So thank you guys as always for watching. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything to add, go ahead and comment down below. I would love to kind of discuss that with you, and I will see you guys next week. We will have a Jonesboro recap show, hopefully coming out around Wednesday. So yeah, thank you guys for joining me, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your week.